Welcome, travelers, to another episode of the Time Travel Trio podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Hyde.
And we're
The Time Travel Trio.
We're back.
Back for more. And this time we have a map.
Ooh.
It's like the extreme version of Dora the Explorer.
I was actually thinking like Muppets. Kind of more like traveling by map.
That's true. You can use the modem to locate the Muppets.
I love the Muppet movie. Okay.
Yeah.
Hyde, what'd you pick?
I chose the 1981 film by Terry Crazy Man Gilliam called Time Bandits, which stars Sean Connery, Shelley Duvall, John Cleese, among others, including Kenny Baker, who played R2-D2.
Yeah.
It's written by Michael Palin and Terry Gilliam himself.
Mm-hmm. For those who don't know, the synopsis says it's about a young boy who accidentally joins a band of time-traveling dwarves as they jump from era to era looking for treasure to steal. That's very accurate.
It is accurate. It is accurate. That is
Yeah.
that is not a deceptive logline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is very fantasy. I was surprised at how much it was fantasy. Like, it was. They built this whole world of God and angels and the evil and this other realm that's outside of Earth and stuff like that.
It felt almost like a book. I wouldn't have been surprised. I mean, I know it's not, but I wouldn't have been surprised if this was a book that they turned into a movie. Kind of felt that way. It jumped around to a lot of different time periods, and so I was genuinely impressed with how many different places they went.
Mm-hmm. They really do use the time travel in this movie. This is not something where with one time travel, one or two time travels is a big event. Time travel is a consistent theme in this.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So, I have never seen this movie before watching it for this.
Yeah, nor have I. I've seen some Monty Python stuff here and there. Yeah, I mean, I definitely do like Holy Grail and all the other stuff. That's pretty big. But I just missed, this obviously isn't Monty Python proper, but it's in that same, it's Terry Gilliam, obviously, and John Cleese is involved. So, it's much in that vein, but I didn't see this at all.
Yeah.
I've seen it before, at least once, and I saw it. I think it was probably on TV or something of that nature. Okay. I love Baron von Munchausen, which is part of his Imagination trilogy. This is the first movie in his Imagination trilogy.
Oh, okay.
Unconnected storylines, but just all kind of similar themes.
Okay.
And so this was one that I watched after seeing that film.
Gotcha. Okay. What'd you think? Did you like it?
Yeah, I think I liked it enough. The problem with the 80s movies is that they are really slow. Nowadays, it would be cut a lot. The stuff with Napoleon, I felt dragged on a lot.
When I was watching it, that's funny that you said that, because when I was watching it, I felt okay, I would cut there, that needs to be shorter, cut this. I know,
but in general, I have a positive outlook on the movie after watching it. It didn't, it felt a little dirty and grimy, but that's kind of that's how Terry Gilliam is, especially with 12 Monkeys. So, that's kind of his deal. And I enjoyed it enough, but just while I was watching, I was like, all right, sometimes I just make it shorter. It's almost 2 hours long, and it doesn't need to be that long.
No, this movie should definitely not have been more than an hour and a half. And I personally felt like the entire thing dragged. Maybe it's just not my cup of tea, but I'm very much more middle of the road. I didn't hate it or anything. It just, I would never watch this movie ever again for the rest of my life. I felt drained for 2 hours. It was kind of exhausting to watch. There were definitely some parts that picked up more than others, when there was maybe action scenes and things like that, or when there was actually things going on. Yeah, driving the story and whatever. But no, I felt how long, and it just felt heavy, I think is the word I would use. Not dramatically heavy, but just watching it for 2 hours felt like
it was like a wet blanket on you.
5 hours. Yeah, it was kind of. It dragged more than most movies that we watched, honestly, for me.
Yeah, I definitely think it drags. I mean, I own a couple of Terry Gilliam films, and this is not one of them that I own. So I never felt too strongly about it. I think it's interesting. I like it. I think it does some pretty cool stuff. Especially for the time period. But I agree, it is a little too long. And as frantic as it is, a lot of it is unnecessarily so. Sometimes it's unnecessarily slow, and sometimes it's unnecessarily frantic. It never quite seems to hit... It's very British, but it never quite seems to hit that perfect tone to make it a classic.
Yeah.
But I'm not knocking Terry Gilliam's work. He's done some awesome stuff. Obviously, I'm a fan of a lot of his work. But yeah, this one is definitely one of his ones where it feels like he's still trying to figure out his style almost.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Because I think the fantasy is really the strong point of this movie.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And I actually really enjoyed the whole, like, good versus evil, God versus, quote-unquote, the devil kind of a thing. And that added a lot to it for me, actually. It made it more about something versus just a quest for the sake of a quest.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I appreciated that, but...
Yeah, I like the way that they developed the dwarves, like, their backstory. They're like, oh, they aren't just... Right. They aren't just a band of ruffians. They're like, they were working with God, and they, like, got demoted, and they found this map to let them kind of do some mischief, and at the end of it all, spoilers, God was involved. He's like, oh yeah, I wanted you guys to do it. I wanted to test out evil and kind of to see what happens. So
right, and there were certain things like that I was like, well, obviously he knows what's going on, and
it's
obviously
God.
It's going to end up being okay at the end of the day. It's a movie, it's fantasy, it's comedy, but I think some of the plot lines and just how, I think because of how many places they went, also added to why it kind of felt like it dragged. Because after a certain point, you're like, why are they still going to different places? Like, for what purpose? To steal things? But then when they go somewhere else, they, like, always lose all their stuff. So it kind of felt like going around a merry-go-round for a while for me. Just, like, in a different place. But, like, the same sort of thing. So, I'm kind of middle of the road. I didn't hate it. There were definitely some fun parts.
The giant floating head. What a great way to enter the world.
Sure. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling that I will decrease the rating that I'm starting with by the time we're done with this.
As you analyze it,
as usual, yes.
Yeah. What Jin do that? You never do that.
I gotta talk about his parents though.
Oh, his parents are awful.
Oh my gosh, let's just start there because it's kind of how the movie opens too, and ends. Right. Well, let's watch the trailer first, and then I will go on a rant about his parents.
Remember my voice. I do trailers. All kinds of trailers.
73, take 2.
One day they'll put me in a film, a proper full-length job. Until then, I'm just stuck with this sort of stuff. Go and see this. Don't miss that. The most terrifying thing you ever saw is coming to babysit for you tonight.
All right, cut it there. Look, just read what's on the script, will you?
What?
The script. Other way up.
Ready?
Yes.
You flock to see brief encounters for the special
Close.
Close Encounters.
Close Encounters, the film.
Oh, I never saw it.
Well, forget that film. We're on about our film. Time Bandits.
The what?
Time Bandits, the one you are supposed to be promoting. Remember?
You flocked to see Close Encounters for the special effects. You went to Superman to see a man fly. You went to Star Wars for the droids. You went...
Now what?
What's page 2, man?
It's under page 1. See? Oh, dear.
Yeah, went to Star Wars for the droids. Time Bandits can offer you much, much more. It's not the special effects, or flying men, or droids, which makes Time Bandits a unique cinematic...
Cinematic! You know, pertaining to the cinema.
Cinematic experience, it's the makeup. Yes, folks, you've never seen anything like it. Men made up to look like monsters. Monsters made up to look like men. Look-alike men made up to look different. Different men made up to look alike. No expense has been spared on the pan stick. No expense has been spared flying in the world's greatest makeup man.
Just a minute. What about the plot?
The what?
The plot. What the film is about.
Well, I haven't seen it, have I?
Haven't seen it? You're sitting there telling millions of people to go and see a film you haven't even seen?
Well, I can't see every film I do now, can I?
Oh, wonderful. Terrific. Look, give me that.
What are you doing?
Taking over. You're out. O-U-T. Finished. Kaput. Finito.
And what about the trailer?
I'll do it. Time Bandits is an awfully good film. We have worked ever so hard on it. It's a tremendous adventure story. We like it, and we're pretty sure you will. What's wrong with it? It's direct, punchy, honest.
Honest. Honest. Modest. What's that got to do with it?
Could you imagine if a trailer like that played in a movie theater today?
Well, I saw in the description that said the VHS trailer, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, too long.
Too long, way too long. But like that's kind of the film. I feel like that's the
Itself.
film in a nutshell. Is kind of
That
that's
trailer.
a good example. Yeah, it's funny, but it's all over the place. I think is how I would describe it. Okay, but his parents,
His parents are
the
they're horrible.
worst people. I think what got me the most was at the end of the movie, and like obviously it was on purpose, but at the end of the movie they couldn't give less of a shit about saving him from this
Right.
fire.
Just
Yeah.
a
They only
toaster.
cared about the toaster.
Right.
Ugh, I was glad to see them go.
It's 9
Yeah.
o'clock, son. Go to bed. What? All right. Yeah, I'm asking you about like history and like studying books. No, go to bed.
And then like when he wants to go to bed, they're like, "You can't go to bed yet." It's like when he wanted to go to bed early the
Right.
next day. It was weird.
Yeah,
What do you think?
about his parents.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad they exploded.
Yeah.
It's a very rare in a movie for you to be like, the parents blew up. Thank goodness.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it was funny. It was funny, obviously, to see it happen, but it's also like because Kevin, the kid, was already like, I don't want to go back to my parents. I hate them. I want to stay with like Sean Connery. And then like at the end when they exploded, he was like, Mom and Dad. And so like he didn't have a moment where he's like, thank God, but it was also like, yeah, he's fine with it.
I
I'm sure
mean,
he'll be
he's
fine.
fine with it, maybe for a minute, but like if you think about it, he doesn't have parents anymore. Like, where's he gonna go?
I
Where's he
mean,
gonna live
England, from what I've seen in popular culture and media and books, is very good with orphans.
Yeah.
with? That's
They
true.
have plenty of gruel.
Plenty
Yeah.
of gruel, and half of them get to go to a magical school, a wizarding school. So, I mean,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
true.
it could be worse,
That's true. Yeah, he's already had so many adventures. It's like
right?
I like that he got to keep the photos too. That was a nice touch.
Yeah.
Nice little type.
I know. Well, yeah, there are moments where like, is he just dreaming? Because like, obviously, the first time we see a knight jump through his room, he was a dream. He was a dream because he like had a picture of it.
Mhm.
And then when he woke up after the whole thing with Evil One, there was his toys were on the ground, arranged like to fight because there was a tank
Right.
and there's horses and there's like stuff.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
yeah. But then he pulled out the photos. I was like, oh no, it happened.
Mhm.
Like I have the photos still. So okay, it happened.
Yeah, it is. I actually liked that, especially with a fantasy movie where it kind of blurs the line of like, is it a dream or was it actually real? And like, it's a kid's imagination. So how much of that actually,
Right.
I didn't have a problem with that. It felt a little bit like Princess Bride sometimes to
A
me.
little bit, yeah.
But not in a bad way. I like that movie too.
Mhm.
So
I really do. Like, if people have seen this movie and they're like, oh, it's okay, or they're on the fence about it, they feel like a little bit, it's like, I really recommend watching The Adventures of Baron von Munchausen. It's kind of like, it's the last one he made of this trilogy, and it's semi-family friendly. I say semi-family friendly because my dad rented it because it was PG, and I'm pretty sure Uma Thurman or someone is topless at one point.
is that PG before PG-13 was a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, Uma Thurman's just topless. Like, you see
Yeah.
you see her boobies.
I mean, Airplane is rated PG and there's boobs and they cuss a lot. So you know.
Right. Jaws is PG.
Did
But
your dad have a problem with?
No, he was like, whatever. I mean, by the time it was over, he was like, well, he saw it. I don't know. What are you going to do? Like, fast forward now that the
Close your
scene's
eyes,
over?
Bobby.
He's like, whatever. I was probably like 12 when I saw that movie, so it was like, kind of like, boobs.
Were those like the first ones you saw?
No.
Okay.
Not even close.
Yeah, he was 12.
Okay.
He was no stranger.
I'm not a boy. I don't know.
But it's just like, but it was definitely shocking to see. Like, definitely the first time I've seen boobs, like, with my dad.
With your
Like,
family,
my
yeah.
mom and dad sitting there next to me, like,
That's fair, yeah.
breastises.
What are these?
What?
Parts
I call
of
innocent. I've never
anatomy.
seen these before. What are these?
I don't have them. I don't know what they are.
Oh no! Anyway, but I do recommend the Vince Baron von Munchausen. Robin Williams is in it for a brief scene. It's way more zany and it moves a lot faster
Okay.
than this film.
Cool. So let's talk about the time travel.
Sure.
So there's a map that belongs to the Supreme Being, and I actually I liked the the little bit when they were talking about, well, it only took 7 days to make the fabric of the universe. It was a rush job, like that kind of thing. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. In the clip, that's where they explain it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a funny concept of like the universe like being a rush job, and there's still these holes that they're trying to repair, but like they can use them to jump through time.
You really want to join us?
Can we really go anywhere?
You name it, if it's down here.
I don't understand. What's so special about that map?
Well, this map, Kevin, used to belong to the Supreme Being.
You stole it?
Oh, no. Well, sort of. You see, he used to be our employer. He made all the big stuff like good and evil, men and women, night and day, and we did trees and shrubs. We helped make all this.
Phew, that's not bad.
Yeah, but did we get a thimble full of credit for it? No. All we got was a sack, just for creating a pink bunkadoo.
Pink bunkadoo?
Yeah, beautiful tree that was. Og designed it, didn't you? Yeah. 600 feet high, bright red, and smelt terrible. Well, as a disciplinary measure, we were sent down to the repairs department.
What?
You see, to be quite frank, Kevin, the fabric of the universe is far from perfect. It was a bit of a botched job, you see. We only had 7 days to make it. And that's where this comes in. This is the only map of all the holes. Well, why repair them? Why not use them to get stinking rich?
Yeah, stinking rich.
So they use these holes in time and space.
I mean, for a map that doesn't appear to be changing at all, there's a lot of information they can glean from looking at it in terms of like the specific location and the entirety of Earth,
especially
and
when
the
they,
universe.
Especially when they see it later through a photograph of it, like a tiny little Polaroid.
Yeah. I know. They're like, oh, hole's going to be here for a short period of time. Let's go over there and run through it. It's,
Yeah.
Again, it's angel, dwarves, and god magic.
Fantasy, yeah.
Yeah.
So the rules of this map, time hole, time travel, I had some questions, and I don't know if we'll be able to answer them, but so these holes kind of just appeared at certain times, right? They can't control when they appear, but do the holes appear once and then they never appear ever again, or how does that work?
I don't think they appear once. I never got that impression. I feel like they're like on like some sort of like rotation or some sort of like clock system.
Yeah, they're periodic. Okay. I mean, because at one point there's two right next to each other, and then one closes and the other one stays open, and then like obviously at the end they like go and get help. So they leave a hole, get people, then go back through a hole with like horses and a tank and lots of other people. So there's I think it's not just like a random occurrence.
They can't manipulate it though, but it's not random.
It's not random. I think they happen and they know where they happen. So
according to this map,
yeah,
I guess.
It's the map. It's Dora's Explorer's map, but like on steroids.
Yeah, but they also know that in the Fortress of Ultimate Darkness that there's the biggest hole of all. So like it's there. So they probably ran down to it and used that to like bring everyone to them somehow.
Okay.
I don't know.
Probably.
They're angels, so
Yeah.
Okay. So consequences?
I mean, you could be stranded.
Yeah, you get stranded in time. You might cause some problems, destroy the universe in the most extreme fashion, or blow yourself up if you touch a piece of evil. But that's not really a consequence of time travel.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Does it change time when they do this? And like Kevin being there, saving Sean Connery, for example, in Greece.
Yeah, I mean, we're not led to believe that things were changing. I think it's more just like that's like I think maybe Sean Connery being a fireman in the present day is like maybe he's a descendant of that ruler. I don't know. That's just a guess, but like there's no indication of whether or not that was or changed or how it always was.
Right. Plus, they also seem to hint that like they're going to go back and start all over again too, in some weird way. Because he tells them like, "Oh, we're going to go back and you're going to get your salary cut like 19%, and then we're going to all back pay all the way to the beginning of time."
Oh, I think that was just like a workplace
joke.
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
Because like,
you're right.
Yeah, and like backdate it to like how long? Oh, since the beginning of time, and they're like, oh, okay, fine.
Basically, got demoted from being demoted.
Right.
Okay, I guess I would have liked to have seen some sort of cause and effect of them being through time, I think would have added a little bit more. So there was consequences of them changing things, being there, that kind of thing. Because they're not supposed to be, right? They're supposed to fix these holes. They're not actually supposed to be in there and interact and steal things and whatever. And
yeah, I know. There was no historical event that they were crucial in happening. So, like, there was never like, oh, that happened because they were there. They were just in those time periods and things happen around them, you know? If Sean Connery was like a famous, I mean, maybe he was a ruler that I just don't know the name of, but if he was like Caesar,
he was a king.
Yeah, I know, but if he was like Caesar, like everyone knows, and they helped him win like a pivotal battle that Caesar won, you know, and like, oh, okay, obviously they were there to help him win that, but he was just they were kind of just there at that time period, you know what I mean?
More like observe, kind of like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure almost.
Okay.
Like you never really affect anything,
right?
Yeah. I liked the bit at the end when God is like comes and he's like in a suit and he's like clean all this up and like whatever. He's like a dad. I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I liked he's like very stern.
He's like, and I'm the nice one.
Yeah. But he demotes people.
Well, they're doing a bad job. That's why.
Kind of this thing.
But he wanted them to do it in the first place, though. So,
well, I think maybe it was like he used them as a reason to do the scene he wanted to do. They failed to like build the shrubberies or whatever. I say shrubberies because of the Knights of Ni. But yeah, so like they weren't doing a good job of building the plants, and he demoted them. It's like, well, now that they're there, I want to do this experiment with evil. I'll throw them in there and see what happens.
Pretty much. It's like your boss demotes you, but that doesn't mean they still don't want you to do these particular things.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know there's no scientific accuracies. It's fantasy.
I know. Yeah, holes that look like just
doorways.
Windows. Yeah, doorways or whatever that open and close.
Kind of like black hole doorway.
Yeah, they always fall once they run through them though. Like they always the doors are always on the ground, and whenever they come out, they're always flying. They're always falling through the sky, and they like land on something. That's like the thing.
It's like a portal.
It's a funny bit too that they do.
Yeah,
they like land on people and things.
Yeah, they land on Shelley Duvall twice. Yeah,
yeah, that was funny. Yeah, some of the bits went on too long.
Yeah, the stuff with Napoleon went on way too long.
Yeah,
I liked the Robin Hood bit. That was pretty well. Once they met Robin Hood, it was pretty quick. When he got their stuff, and I thought it was funny when the guy, I can't remember his name, but he couldn't talk or couldn't understand him, and he was punching the poor people. And Robin Hood was like, "Are you sure that's necessary?" And he like mumbled, and the guy was like, "I'm afraid it is." He was like, "All right," he like, kept punching people.
Yeah,
that was pretty funny.
Yeah, he was.
It's a very Monty Python-esque joke.
He was fun as Robin Hood too to see. John Cleese.
What an interesting film on Sean Connery's filmography.
I know.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone ever like brings that up. Like, hey, do you remember that 80s fantasy weird movie that you did?
Oh, you mean Zardoz?
No, the other one. Not the one everyone is embarrassed that you were in. The one that like it's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not that Zardoz isn't interesting. Just interesting for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a favorite time that you liked to see them go back to?
I mean, Titanic was fun, just because they were all like lounging, and then like they reveal the Titanic lifeboat or the life vest.
I liked how I liked how they revealed that. I thought it was pretty fun. I was like, oh shit, they're on the Titanic, and then like a second later, it crashes. Yeah. I liked that it wasn't dragged out like, when is it gonna happen? They're on the Titanic. It's like, no, they're just like on a boat, and you like don't really think about it. But then once you're like, oh, duh, obviously they're on the Titanic.
And then it's like hit, and they just like instantly sink. But
I'm also like, shouldn't they have frozen in that water? Okay, whatever.
I know. Well, it's funny because like they were on a piece of driftwood, just like in the 18 years later or whatever. Yeah. James Cameron did it, but they all fit.
They all fit in this one. That's because they're trying. That's because they're really trying to like make sure everyone survives.
But they're not even on the door.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, they're like Jack, so they all would have frozen.
Yeah, they're not even on. None of them are even on the door. They're all just kind of dragging on it. If the water's cold enough to make icebergs, I'm saying it's probably cold enough to freeze you. But it's a comedy.
It's a comedy.
Let it go.
It's a fantasy.
I'm gonna let it go.
You know. I did like the Titanic part. That was nice. I also liked when they actually got, what would you call that? I mean, it's not really hell, but where
No, it's what do they call it? The time of legends.
the time of legends.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun.
It's like its own fantasy world with like the giant and ogres and
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah. I would have liked to have spent maybe more time there.
Me too. Like trim off the Napoleon stuff and some of the Julius Caesar stuff and give us more time there. Because that was very interesting and really cool effects for 1981.
Yeah, I agree. Relevance to the story, so we kind of touched on this a little bit, but they do actually travel to multiple places, as we've mentioned, and they have this map. There is a little bit more to it, which I do appreciate. I wouldn't say there's like a ton of thought maybe put into it.
I mean, yeah, the story is about the Time Bandits and Kevin. The time travel's there to like get them to move around to different areas, you know. So it isn't a time travel story.
Right.
It's a story that uses time travel to get the characters around.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of a nice break for us.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the movies we do are very time travel drama, time travel creating drama, that kind of thing is very standard. And so it's kind of nice that it's not just someone going from one place to another and then it doesn't exist again. It is consistent, but it's not the whole thing. It's not, as you said, it's not about the time travel. It's just a device that they use.
Yeah.
It's consistent with the rule of like, well, just make sure it's fun. Like, make sure it's like it always feels like an adventure. Like, you know, they're not trying to bog you down too many rules, too many like timelines or deadlines.
Yeah,
We're just experiencing it.
Yeah, exactly. And like at the end, and then they use time travel to get everyone to fight together, you know, to face off against the evil one, you know. So we got to like see the tank and the horse-drawn soldiers and the archers and the spaceship laser, you know. So it's like they all kind of all mashed together.
I mean, which is every kid's fantasy when they're playing with toys.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what I was going to say, and I think I'm sure is the purpose too. It kind of is like, you know, in the Lego movie when it's like like playing with the Legos, and then when you're in the Lego world, that's what's like the real stuff that's going on.
Well, speaking of Lego, in the castle, there are blocks that looks like Legos, which made me think like when I was watching the stuff in the forge, like, is he just playing with toys? Because there's like big Lego blocks with like the square and the 4 pegs. And so I imagine, like, at the end, I didn't get a good look at the toys that he had, but I'm sure there were Legos involved too, you know? So it's probably kind of...
The more I think about
related.
it, the more I think the Lego movie is very influenced by this movie too.
It would be interesting.
Just thinking about it, like they have that I don't know what they call it.
There was a
Lego
ship,
movie, but
there's
the ship, there's like that time wormhole kind of thing that they use.
It's like Lego movies basically Time Bandits mixed with the Matrix.
Yes. Yeah, that's accurate. I liked that too. I noticed, I was like, oh, that looks like a Lego. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
It really is like, and maybe it's God, you know, putting the dwarves with Kevin and, you know, kind of blending them, and who knows. But because of, you know, the structure that they built and the fantasy and like the God and good and evil, and they can kind of get away with that, so it's not too, I don't know what the word would be. Like,
it's a nice touch, but it doesn't make me think like it was all a dream. You know, it's like that's a nice little touch. That's like a kid's.
Right,
it wasn't a dream. It really happened.
It's not trying to question whether or not it's a dream. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
but it's fun to kind of see both sides of it, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Clothes and sets. I thought Kevin was just adorable. He was just like a cute. He looks
cute
like
little
the
British
he looks
kid.
like the boy from Princess Bride. He looks like the little boy in the beginning of that movie. But
Fred Savage.
I mean, he looks like him.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Oh, well, no, he looks like the kid from Neverending Story.
Oh, you know,
that's who you're
at. They all
he
look the same to me.
does.
Because he had the same kind of like hair, and he had the same kind of like
Yeah. Okay.
scrawny, innocent face.
Yeah. He was precious. I liked his little satchel that he had. The
Yes.
whole movie was really fun.
We gotta keep
camera.
the satchel.
And his camera, yeah.
Yeah.
I liked that they were able to kind of get away with changing clothes for these characters.
Mm-hmm.
I think other than Kevin, I think he stayed the same most of the time, with some exceptions. But
Yeah, with like the
Titanic
Roman stuff.
and the Romans.
Yeah.
But it was fun to see the dwarves like wearing Napoleon stuff and then wearing, you know,
The suits on the Titanic.
Right.
And, yeah.
and the sets. I mean, you kind of mentioned the special effects and just the creativity that they used with it is really awesome for a 1981 film, and just how outlandish maybe is the word.
Outlandish is a very good word.
I
mean, there's a boat that's driven by a head, basically a head. I mean, it's almost like Terry Gilliam was just like, what's the weirdest stuff I can put in this movie?
Yeah, a giant wearing a boat as a hat.
And I like that, though a movie like that can get made. Well, back then, probably not now, but like, that it's like, oh, you know what, this is really weird and out there, just do it, It's cool to have stuff like that has influenced other things that we know, as we mentioned. Mm-hmm. Would you guys want to experience this time travel?
Sure.
I mean...
Why not? Yeah.
Yes and no. There are, very, potential extreme ways to die. But you're also shielded in many ways, too, at the same time.
I mean, yeah, with God pretty much over your shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it is interesting. You can die in theory, but really only bad people die. So...
Yeah.
Because, again, God's kind of like, I'm kind of got my hand in this. So it's not it would be fun, but it also would be you would never be the same after doing something like that. Everything.
Yeah, especially if your parents explode.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, but that's only if your parents are jerks enough to care about a toaster more than you.
Yeah.
Would
I want to experience this time travel? I'm not sure. Part of me is like, yeah, why not? But then I'm also like, I kind of agree with you that there could be some drastic consequences. I think I probably would, though. You could go a lot of interesting places.
Yeah, see lots of stuff, and you get to hang out with some cool dwarves.
Get to hang out R2-D2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I mean,
He isn't being R2-D2, but...
Right. But it's him.
Still, yeah.
It's him. It's just hey, oh, look, it's Mark Hamill. And you're like, Luke Skywalker with the Joker.
Yeah, Kenny Baker was in the suit. He was in the desert in a little robot tin, sweating away. So he put in work.
Yeah.
He earned those
he
hours.
He deserves to time travel then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just like Rachel McAdams.
Yep. She deserves it too.
Keep my fingers crossed. Game night has time travel in it, and she gets to do it.
That's a whole other movie that I would love to see, actually.
Yeah,
if that turned out to be a time travel movie.
I'm gonna go there and we're gonna see it, and Jason Bateman's gonna time travel at some point, and she's not gonna go along.
I know.
Yep.
And then we're all gonna freak out.
We're gonna boycott.
It's gonna happen.
We're gonna
That would happen too. I could totally see Jason Bateman time traveling and not appreciating it.
Right, and she doesn't get to go.
Stupid jerk. Ugh. Let her time travel. Okay, anyway. Were there any other notes? There wasn't maybe a ton to kind of touch on.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the movie, you kind of, there wasn't anything that really stood out to me as oh yeah, that's the thing I noticed. It's just, little moments that I was like, oh yeah, that's funny, or sometimes where I was like, all right, this is going on too long. That's pretty much where I was at. I was in between those two moods.
I like the opening. I like how it opens with, the map and everything and zooming in, and then how it closes with the map again. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really cool. It's
like a storybook almost.
Yeah, I like that. It's not done enough anymore. That's kind of an outdated thing to do. No one does that anymore.
Shrek did it, but I feel like that's probably...
They were making fun of all that.
Yeah.
Which is, it definitely deserves to get made fun of. It was an overused trope for a long time. But now it's gotten to the point where, it's never used anymore, so now you kind of want it back.
Yeah.
It's like if you had Coca-Cola 2 or 3 days in a row, you'd be like, man, I'm so tired of Coca-Cola. But it's been 3 years since you had Coca-Cola, and you see that a nice Mexican Coke.
Yeah.
And you're just you had a burrito, and now you're like, I want it. That's how I feel about these title openings.
Right, yeah.
Now I want a burrito and a Coke.
Right.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome, audience.
Yeah.
Listeners.
A nice cold Mexican Coke. Doesn't that just taste great?
Doesn't it taste?
Give us money.
It's real sugar.
Mexican Coke is great. That's just good. I didn't really have any other notes.
Yeah, neither.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Not a long episode, but that's okay.
I mean, I like the bleak real world that the parents were obsessed with, the show, Your Money or Your Life. I thought that was pretty funny. It's a very Terry Gilliam-esque concept for a TV show. And obviously, they come back in in the fortress because the devil was like, "Let me do this," whatever. But
Right.
it's pretty funny.
Yeah, stuff like that I appreciate about his films. Kind of almost not hidden, but more layered
Yeah.
things that you kind of
It's like world building.
have to sit on and think about that kind of maybe have a deeper meaning, or different kind of commentary that doesn't, necessarily
right
go
out
with
to
the
you.
plot. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I always like stuff like that.
It's not
Yeah.
bashing you over the head with it.
Right. Okay. I guess should we do final reviews?
Sure.
Let's do it.
All right. Hyde, your movie. Why don't you start?
Well, movie-wise, this, like I said, it's not my favorite Terry Gilliam film. It's very weird. It's definitely very him. It's far from perfect, but there's more that I like about it than I dislike. I agree, it's about 20 minutes too long, maybe even 30, but it's still enjoyable. What works really well. What doesn't work, it's not that like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that. That was such a terrible scene. It's just goes on a little too long sometimes. It's, So all that being said, I think my final review for the film was a 6.5 out of 10.
Okay. I'm still kind of middle of the road. I don't want to see this movie again, and it did feel like it dragged, but there were bits I liked. And I can it is a fantasy and it is a comedy, and so there are certain things that I can kind of suspend disbelief about and, not feel like I need to dock points for. So I am going to stick with what I originally was thinking when we started was 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree with you guys both. My memory of the movie will be a pleasant one, but I don't ever want to watch it again because when I was watching it, it was a little unpleasant because I felt like it was just dragging on.
Mm-hmm.
So it left a good impression, but the actual viewing of it wasn't
Getting there
enjoyable.
took longer.
It was a
Yeah.
long walk.
It was a long walk.
Exactly,
There
yeah.
you go.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I do appreciate the weirdness. I like the fantasy element. I like, kind of what they do. I like that they jump around. I like the whole meta story of these dwarves have this map from God and there's holes in the universe that they like to use. But again, it just felt like it dragged on watching it. And so I'll have to end up at a 5.5 out of 10.
Okay. Time travel?
Time travel rating. Well, this is one of those weird ones because it doesn't break its rules, but there's not really hardcore established rules either. But the time travel is used a lot. And we have seen a lot of movies where time travel I feel is not used effectively enough recently. So this is kind of affecting my grade a little bit. It might be higher than I normally would give it, but I'm going to give the time travel a 6 out of 10. Just because they use it a lot, it never gets really messy, and it makes sense in the world that they've created.
I actually am on the same page with you, which I think is actually rare your time travel is lower than your movie rating, but mine is going to be a 6 out of 10 time travel, which is higher than my movie rating, which is
Yeah, it doesn't happen all the time.
fairly uncommon for us, but I agree for the same reasons. I like that it's fairly consistent throughout. I liked that it was a map. It was something a little bit different. There were holes in the universe. It kind of went with the whole God creation, good, evil, man, whatever thing, and was like kind of a side effect of that, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, 6 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, same reasons for me as well. I'll give it 6 out of 10. Just, like I said, I like the whole holes in the universe concept, and they have this map, and they kind of are kind of the underdogs, I guess, more or less, of this whole society of builders of the universe. They're they're just trying to have fun, and they're like, oh, we're bandits, and then they find out, oh no, we're actually just workers, and we're not actually bandits. We're just trying to have fun and
Get rich or
Yeah.
die trying.
right.
right.
So yeah, so 6 out of 10 for me.
Nice.
I think that's a fair one.
Yeah. Cool. So we're unanimous on that. Rotten Tomatoes for this movie is very high. Definitely, I think, a lot of nostalgia. It's at 91%. 70% of audiences liked it, but the critics' consensus says Time Bandits is a remarkable time travel fantasy from Terry Gilliam, who utilizes fantastic set design and homemade special effects to create a vivid, original universe. That is accurate, but that is a very high rating. But as we mention every time, when it's an older movie that's existed before Rotten Tomatoes, it tends to skew a lot higher than it would if it came out
Higher or
presently.
lower
Yeah,
than it
depending on
I mean, if
nostalgia.
yeah, if they're like me, then the memory is positive.
Right,
I'm
that's
sure if
true.
everyone were to rewatch this, they'd be like, "This is way too long."
Yeah, that's true. They probably wouldn't rewatch it and just reviewed it like, oh yeah, that was a fun movie. Like, even my mom, actually, I mentioned to her that we were doing this movie on the podcast. She was like, oh yeah, I liked that movie. But I bet if she sat and watched it too, she'd be like, oh, this is dragging on. And, like, the same kind of things we were saying. So it's also harder because we went into it looking with a critical eye.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You guys had never seen it before either.
Right,
So
that's
no nostalgia.
You had a little bit more of that nostalgia. It's almost like how when we did Clock Stoppers, you and I were very into Clock Stoppers, and you were kind of like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have that same nostalgia.
Yeah.
So this is our Clock Stoppers.
The DJ Jans scene.
Ugh.
The DJ Jans scene got ruined with nostalgia. When you take out the nostalgic goggles and you watch that DJ scene, you realize this doesn't make any sense.
It's rough, and it's rough to watch. But we've all had movies like that this podcast has ruined. Mine still breaks my heart. Poor Kate and Leopold.
Yep.
I loved that movie.
Rest in power, Kate
and I
Leopold.
literally can't watch it ever again. Okay. So, next episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're doing a big one. This is the original Twilight Zone series. Now, obviously, this isn't a time travel show, but they do several stories that involve time travel. And we're only going to choose a couple to focus on. And we'll probably kind of bring up the other ones too, but we're going to focus on 2 episodes. One is Walking Distance,
which is season 1, episode 5. And it says, a man travels back in time to his childhood, arriving just a few miles away from his native town.
Yeah.
Hijinks will probably ensue.
Yeah, we, obviously, I think we've seen several episodes here and there of the show. I don't know if we've seen these exactly, but before we chose the episodes, we actually made sure that they would have enough meat for us to talk about. And so that's kind of...
Yeah, there's about 10 or so different Twilight Zone episodes that touch on time travel, so we wanted to make sure to pick some that were different and, as you said, had more meat to them. We're all familiar... Right. I'd say with Twilight Zone as a whole, so...
yeah, I definitely watched a few of the marathons when I was younger, just random episodes.
I've seen, probably 10-plus episodes in my life, at least, if not more. It's kind of... Once you see a few of them, too, you kind of get... They all usually have some sort of a message or something that it's trying to say, or is about something in the war, or whatever. So, Twilight Zone is on Netflix, and... As Matt mentioned, the first episode is season 1, episode 5, Walking Distance. The second episode will be season 4, episode 10, which is called No Time Like the Past, which I love that title, by the way.
Yeah.
A scientist attempts to use a time machine to prevent tragedies, both in world history and in his own past. And so some of the other themes in other episodes, which you're welcome to brush up on your Twilight Zone before our episode, a lot of them are... kind of cause and effect based.
Yes.
Of someone doing something and it creates something else, or they see something when they go somewhere and they result in them having to do something because of seeing that sort of thing. But Twilight Zone is great. It's, for its time is so ahead of it, or that was worded backwards, but
Yes.
Ahead of its time. There we go.
Ahead of its time.
And it was a big influence on a lot of shows that we've either done or watched or loved, and movies. Lost for sure, there's...
Yeah. There is an episode, obviously we just did Time Lapse, and there's an episode of Twilight Zone that it was based off of that we won't cover, but it's the same idea of a camera that takes a picture of the future. So, those little moments where a single episode could spawn an entire movie, that's based off of it. So there's lots of different, tropes and things that are in the original show that are, that spawned off into these other massive things,
Yeah, and some of the episodes, Walking Distance is 20 minutes, and the other episode is 50 minutes, so, it tells the story in the length that it wants to tell it, which is something that literally can't happen anymore.
Right.
It is, given the structure that it's given for a TV show, and so it's really nice to know that we can watch this stuff, how long it's meant to be told, and all of these stories. Really, you can pick up any episode of Twilight Zone and kind of jump into it and get what it's about. They're all mini movies,
right?
With really interesting out there sci-fi or morality or mortality, and
past, future,
it's
fantasy worlds,
and they're not all sci-fi. They're not all about time travel. So if you haven't seen Twilight Zone, cannot recommend it enough. Definitely pick some up. Watch these episodes, some other time travel ones, and we're looking forward to getting into that. I can't wait to have an excuse to watch more Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, it is on Netflix if you're a Netflix subscriber. It might be elsewhere too. I'm not sure. I don't have Hulu. But, okay, social media. So we are at Time Travel Trio on Twitter and on Instagram. If you'd like to follow us, we would heavily appreciate that. We're getting great suggestions from people on Twitter. I know there's some new movies coming out and a movie that just came out on Netflix that we've added to our list that's time travel. So keep all those suggestions coming. We can't wait to, do more for you guys. So if there's a movie we haven't done or TV show we haven't done that you're really dying to hear, please tell us so we can move it up on the list. And we are on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. So if you write us a written review on iTunes, we will make up a time travel story about you. No one has done it in a long time, so please do those so we can make those. We'd appreciate your review.
Yeah, the review is nice, but we just want to make more stories.
We could just send us something, and we want to just help spread the love and get our creative juices flowing. We got all these time travel ideas. We've seen almost 65 movies now or something. So
crazy.
It's a lot of time travel. We've seen probably more time travel than anyone is ever meant to see in their life. I'd like to say.
I would say also this, particularly leading up to what we're going to be doing with the Twilight Zone. People ever want to tweet us or post on our Instagram pages their favorite Twilight Zone episodes, whether they're time travel or not. I'm very curious because everyone, I feel like, has a different favorite Twilight Zone episode.
For sure, yeah.
And I feel like a favorite Twilight Zone episode is almost like tells something about someone's personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are you afraid of? What do you find very interesting? What do you find very fantastical? Mm-hmm. Or, what do you like? Because Twilight Zone can be very sentimental. It can be very frightening.
It can be very depressing.
Funny. Yeah, depressing.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to hear always what they gravitate towards.
Yeah.
No, I like that. And we'll definitely post that question when it gets closer to when we're going to cover this Twilight Zone, which is soon, to see what's out there, and maybe we'll talk about some of those on that episode. So personal, I am at Jen Marlis on Twitter and on Instagram if you'd like to follow me.
And I'm at Foreman in Space if you'd like to follow me.
I'm at Robinson is Hyde.
And
with that,
we are out of
time.